Good evening, my friends, and welcome once again to the library at Horror Hotel, where right now it's time for Dr. Lady's Internet Communication Tips. Now, I've been spending some time on some of the social network sites recently, and I'm not sure why this is the case, but I have found it to be obvious that, one of the goals, one of the things that people want to do when they are on the social networking sites, or indeed anywhere online, is to make themselves look like complete idiots. Now, if you want to make yourself look like an idiot and thereby be cool on Facebook and all those other sites, one way to do that would be to occasionally type something with like a letter backwards. You know, like you might do if you're printing something and you want it to look like it was printed by your cat, or your toddler who's just learning to write, or your teddy bear. You might occasionally make an R or an S or an N backwards. But since most keyboards don't allow you to do that, if you want to look really stupid and illiterate online, like obviously most people do, you're going to have to come up with another way to do it. Now, here's a good one. And Font Zombie, I hope you have a font ready for this that has an apostrophe in it, because that's important. Are we good, Font Zombie? Okay. Font Zombie. Anyway, to look like a complete idiot and make sure that people don't take you seriously even when you're passionate about something, or you're posting a lengthy and carefully worded tirade about politics or religion or world government or some such thing, here's a good way to make yourself look like a fool. The words, now they say, let me back up a little, they say 3 of the saddest words in the language are could've, would've, and should've. And the reason they say that, I used to think it was because they represent regret, all 3 of those words. I could have done this. It would have been this way. It should have been that way. Those are sad words. Today they're even sadder words because people are illiterate. And if you want to look illiterate too, so people know that you fit right in on the interwebs, okay, could have, okay, could have. That's 2 words, okay, could have. Now, when you say that out loud in a sentence, it's like, it could have been this or that, blah, blah, blah. Could have, you're saying could have, which is a contraction, which is could apostrophe VE. Just think of that apostrophe as the H and the A compressed, like all the molecules of the H and the A have been super compressed into a tight little apostrophe, okay, and that's could have, could have. But when you say could have, would have, or should have, what you're really saying is a shortened version of could have, would have, and should have. Now, if you don't want to use the apostrophe VE and you want to type it out, that is the words could have, would have, or should have. If you want to do it that way, you run the risk of sounding literate, sounding like someone who could pass the 3rd grade, coming off like someone who is actually smarter than a pile of broken outboard motors, okay? So what you want to do to make yourself look like an imbecile is say could of, O-F, would of, should of, because there's no such thing as could of, would of, and should of, so that doesn't make any sense, and when you do it, it has pretty much the same effect as making the S backwards at the end of a word, in terms of making you seem like somebody who's dumber than a box of wet hair. So again, if you use could have, would have, should have, you run the risk of being thought an intelligent person. So since the point is to look stupid, you want to use could of, should of, and would of, which don't mean anything and don't make sense, and will convince people that your IQ is lower than the rent on a burning building in East Cleveland on a very warm Thursday afternoon in July. Now that that's out of the way, let's get on with tonight's mask recommendation here on Creepy Cheapies. And tonight's mask is a little guy called Decayed. And since I'm on the topic of spelling, that's D-E-C-A-Y-E-D, which means rotted or decomposed. Not to be confused with D-E-C-A-D-E, which is Decayed, which is how long you thought it was going to take before I would finally pull out a mask to show you. See, that's Decayed and Decade. Two different words, similar in sound, but entirely different in meaning and content. Anyway, Decayed came out way back in 2012 from the amazing folks at Trick or Treat Studios. And I think he's one of the better scary, disgusting, rotted corpses, kind of in the old school rotted corpse mode. Either one, mold or mode. Kind of like the rotted corpses back in movies like Burial Ground and Fulci's zombie movies. Kind of like Jason back in the era when Jason was an Italian cannibal zombie, like parts 6, 7, and 8. Kind of reminiscent of that. But good creepy mask. It's a full head with a full neck, and the back it has a small slit up the back. It's got these creepy wart clusters all over the place, and the eyes are trimmed out nice and subtle, and it's just a very dead looking guy. I think it would be fun to wear this one and sort of stumble around and bump into things, because he kind of looks like he's not real with it. He looks like he's going, what? Where am I? Which is really creepy if you've got him coming out of a grave or some other classic zombie-like position. And in a pinch, if you've got just a plastic hockey mask, you could use him for late 80s, early 90s Jason, I guess, if you just put a hockey mask over him, if you don't have a proper Jason mask. But this guy was sculpted by a very talented and very cool guy named Pete Infelice. And Pete Infelice does wonderful work. I've always been impressed with his stuff, and this is one of many very impressive Pete Infelice pieces. Pete Infelice pieces. Get yours today from Trick or Treat Studio or your favorite online mask dealership. Thank you.